AI is a tremendous tool to leverage their skill and experience. I think it can add tremendous value to both them and their jobs. Unlike a lot of other people, I don't believe that a ton of people are going to lose their jobs to AI. I do think some people will be displaced by other people that know what they do and use AI, but I don't think it's going to displace a lot. The opportunities far outweigh any of the downsides. And candidly, I just wanted to share that with people.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Joel Irway here, and welcome to another very special episode of The Joel Irway Show. Today's episode is sponsored by Get Inspired. Use this tool as your AI content co-pilot and automate your ads, automate your content so it sounds in your voice in less than 3 minutes per day. Grow your audience, grow your revenue. Go to getinspired.app for a free 14-day trial. Today, we have a very, very special guest, a good friend of mine by the name of Jonathan Mast of Whitebeard Strategies. Now, Jonathan and I got connected a few months ago from our mutual friend, Onyx Singal. And Jonathan, at the time, now I have mostly removed myself from social media on my phone, so I'm not on social media all that much. But when Onyx connected the two of us, it's like, hey, Jonathan has this really awesome community, this really awesome Facebook group where he talks about AI. I'm like, oh, cool. I love AI groups, right? I'm part of a ton of them, except for Jonathan's is like 450,000 strong. So maybe it's even larger at this point. I'm not entirely sure, but that blew me away. So I started following his content, and it was really, really powerful. So we connected a little bit while later. I wanted to get him on the podcast. Here he is. I'm really excited to talk all things AI. What's happening right now? What are some new policies? How can you utilize AI for your own workflows? But Jonathan, welcome to the show, my man.
Well, thanks for having me, Joel. I'm excited to be here. And like you, thankful that Onyx got us introduced.
Give our audience a quick 30 to 60 second background about who you are and how you are relevant in the AI space.
Thanks. Well, I'm just a ADHD visionary entrepreneur. I mean, that's kind of at the core of who I am. I'm a hot mess when it comes to that. I've got more ideas before lunch than most people do all month. And what happened is in late 2022, when ChatGPT released an interface for what we now know as ChatGPT, I was like, oh my gosh, I can get so much stuff done. This is amazing. And I fell in love with it and saw that as an entrepreneur, again, it just gave me some tremendous capabilities. Unfortunately, I also saw my team look at it with some fear and trepidation. And they're like, uh-oh, this might take away our jobs. I don't know if we should embrace it. And as I started talking to peers of mine, I was in the digital marketing field, have been there since 1995. They had the same thing. They said, we're seeing it's amazing, but our teams are not getting on board. And I really felt the need to help educate not only the business owners, the entrepreneurs, but also their teams that AI is a tremendous tool to leverage their skill and experience. And I think it can add tremendous value to both them and their jobs. And unlike a lot of other people, I don't believe that a ton of people are going to lose their jobs to AI. I do think some people will be displaced by other people that know what they do and use AI, but I don't think it's going to displace a lot. And I think the opportunities far outweigh any of the downsides. And candidly, I just wanted to share that with people.
What's really funny about I don't want to say funny because people are definitely losing their jobs. There's nothing funny about that. But I share very similar beliefs to you where it's just like the internet. I don't want to say it's just like the internet, but what I really mean is like everyone's going to need to learn how to use this tool, period. Like
Exactly.
it is going to be a requirement, not a replacement. Some things are going to be able to be automated, just like robots are going to are wiping out people at Amazon factories and stuff like that. But it will present other opportunities for other people to level up. Talk about current policies. You and I talked briefly before we kicked off this podcast. I think this is really, really important for those who are using AI for content. Talk about what the current policies are and what gets people a little bit nervous in the AI space.
Well, up until literally Tuesday of this week, there weren't a lot of policies by a lot of people, other than that, you would hear some people say, don't use AI content or whatever. And being a marketer, I do a lot of content creation with it. I'm in a lot of circles with people that do a lot of content creation. And YouTube a couple weeks ago announced that they were going to update their monetization rules. So if you've got a YouTube channel and you're monetizing that, they updated the rules. I'll tell you what the rules said in just a minute. But what everybody took out of the announcement was the headline, and a couple of key words was, "Oh my goodness, YouTube's going to ban AI related content." Not true. What they said was good, and it was, we all know that AI has allowed creators to create content faster, and in many cases better than what they were able to do before. I know my marketing copy, which I've been writing for over a decade, is better now when I use AI to help me refine it, when I work collaboratively. But it's also allowed a bunch of people to go out and go, you know what, I could create 100 videos today and I'll make little changes to them and I'll get lots of views. That's not good for the audience because it's largely duplicative, it's bulk, it's not valuable. At the end of the day, Joel, it's not helpful content. And as a result, YouTube's basically looking and saying, we're not going to monetize unhelpful content anymore. So if you're using AI to create bulk content, yeah, you're probably not going to be able to get monetized. Very different than if you're using AI to create helpful content, that's still perfectly okay. So that was a big announcement. And Facebook, on the heels of that, just announced, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, could be off on my days. It's been a wild week as usual in AI. But Facebook announced they're going to be doing something very similar, where they're going to be either removing and or not amplifying any bulk AI duplicative type content. Again, that's great. As I mentioned, I run a group. I see it all the time where people will take something that you posted, Joel, that was great. They'll run it through ChatGPT and they'll post essentially the exact same thing in my group and say it's theirs. There's tons of that going on out there. And again, it's generally not helpful to the communities. So it makes sense that we're going to start worrying about that. That's very different, though, than what I won't call it the news media because it's not the mainstream media, but it's different than all the people looking for clickbait titles that are going, YouTube and Facebook are banning AI content. Not true. Unfortunately, a lot of people stop reading after that headline.
Yeah. And honestly, this is a blessing for everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
We were already inundated with too much content before AI. And now with AI, we hit a J curve after already being overwhelmed with information, and it's skyrocketed. So I think that's fantastic, and it's gonna help weed out all of the bad actors and hopefully
100%
give everybody more quality content. What are you seeing right now in terms of some of your favorite new AI technologies? So I'm actually going to pull from one of your recent posts,
Sure.
and I believe it was in the past week or two. And the name of the product is actually it's escaping me, but it's a new browser, right? A web browser.
Yeah. Comment probably from Perplexity. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it was. Comment, right? Tell me about that, because like I watched a little bit about what you're talking about, and then I got distracted. I had to go do something else. But is that the future of where we're going right now? Like, give me a little bit of overview as to what Comet is and how it links with Perplexity.
Well, like I said, I've been doing this for decades and I'm an old guy. So I actually remember back in the 1995, 96, when not Firefox, when Netscape Navigator, I'm going to get confused. When Netscape Navigator came out, you can't even use it anymore. They're out of business. But it was like the newest and bestest browser ever. It did all kinds of amazing things that we couldn't have imagined back in 1995. And Comet, which is the first or maybe second of many what we call AI browsers, which I just had the opportunity to test out earlier this week, blew my mind, just like Netscape Navigator had back in 1995. And the big difference is it's a browser like anything else, except that now within that browser, you have the ability to use AI to look at data across every open tab you have. Remember, I'm the ADD entrepreneur. That means I have 75 tabs open at all times, maybe more. Instead of having to figure out where stuff is, I can literally just ask my browser to find where's Joel's podcast, and it will find and search all 75 open tabs and find me that. It can actually integrate directly with tools. So it's Perplexity. I trust Perplexity. They're a well-known entity. And so I gave them access to my Google Calendar and my email and that type of thing. I now, for example, can say, schedule a podcast with Joel next week, Tuesday at 4, and it does it just like that. I don't have to go type it in. I don't have to do anything. Those are just a couple little tidbits of what it can do. And there's so many aspects there that it can do well.
Awesome. So I am really excited to check out Comet. The problem with me is I'm overwhelmed by all of the AI tech, right? The other one that I really, and maybe you've tested this one out, right? The other one that I'm really interested in is GenSpark. Have you tested out
Mm.
GenSpark at all?
I've used it a little bit. It's very similar in many ways to Comet. I'm not a fan of GenSpark for one reason only. It's not that it's bad, it's really cool and it works really well. But they work on a credit-based system.
Yeah.
And being ADD, I struggle to equate credits to dollars that I'm spending. I
Hmm.
personally, personal opinion only, would just prefer that they tell me I'm going to pay per usage or I can pay more and have a monthly fee I can rely on. That's a Jonathan preference. It's not necessarily anything bad about GenSpark. I have used it a bit. It's very impressive. It works very well. I would say it is going to be comparable in many ways to what you're going to see from Comet, from Perplexity. OpenAI has already announced they're coming out with an AI browser. I would anticipate that we're going to see the same coming out with from Firefox and others. By the end of the year, I imagine that the browsers we have today, the non-AI browsers, will be a thing of the past.
You know, going down this vein, going down this kind of rabbit hole of operators, right? I think ChatGPT was kind of maybe Manus came out before ChatGPT's operator. Operator was absolutely garbage. I don't know if you
It
used it at
was.
all. Yeah, but
Just a little bit. And I was like, this is such junk. Yeah.
yeah, it's horrible. But Manus came out and now is like your kind of like a co-pilot, which I thought worked very, very well.
Hmm.
But like, we're now starting to see the next wave of like what's happening with AI. It's like ChatGPT came out, it's like holy crap, blew everybody's minds. Then Claude, and I know I'm getting all of this timeline inaccurate, but then Manus came out. I think Manus was kind of the first one to really integrate like I don't want to say like agentic stuff, but it's like, cool, you want to get something done? Like, I'm going to go piece together all this other stuff. Like, you give me a question, I'll go get a bunch of stuff done while using another
Exactly.
browser, like a work terminal, which is like a true agent. And I remember using that to plan our upcoming trip that we're going tomorrow. We're actually going to Boston and Cape Cod. And my wife was trying to plan it all out. This is like 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And I said, I've seen Manus. I wonder if I can just have Manus plan the trip of what we're going to do with the kids through all of these different cities. And I was blown away. That was the first thing. So that response that Manus gave me was the first thing that my wife was like, wow, like this is incredible. I mean, we got dates and times. Like we're going to go to this
Hmm.
thing at this thing at this point. This is closed on this day, so we're going to go over here. Like it was a full blown itinerary across 7 days. And so now we're seeing the next evolution of these browsers now. Like what are you seeing as like the next up like everywhere that we've come so far so fast in the past 3 years since AI went mainstream with ChatGPT? Like what do you see as being next?
Well, I think we're going to continue to see a lot more movement in what we call that agentic AI, much like Manus as I started. Perplexity just released their labs, which is also very similar to that, where instead of working with ChatGPT, which I do every single day, and giving it a task and having it help me do that task and then carrying on a conversation and have it do the next task, Manus is more like instead of sitting down with a coworker and collaboratively working on a project, which is kind of what AI is like, Manus is kind of like going to that coworker who may even be smarter than you and giving them a project or an end goal and then leaving them for a day, except that you're going to leave them for 20 minutes. And Manus will actually put together a task list to execute on that goal. It'll create files, it'll write content, it'll create websites, graphics, video, even audio content now can be created on that all automatically in order to help you achieve that goal that you gave it. So it's a incredible time saver and really super powerful model.
You know, why don't you talk about integration with all of this stuff? Because one of the things that I have found is that as being a fellow ADHD entrepreneur, it's very easy to start one of these tools, but and there's a lot of cool things that can happen. How do you see integration with AI tools where it actually becomes part of your workflow and really does enhance your productivity and your output? Because I think we see a lot of one-off use cases of like, cool, this can do a little bit more research for me faster. This can do this, this can do this, this can do this. Do you have like an ecosystem? Do you have like a workflow that allows you to really integrate a full system? And if you do, would you mind sharing what one of those looks like and how that incorporates in your business? Because I think that's a big missing piece for a lot of people is ChatGPT is awesome because I can ask it questions or write content, whatever. It can be my little co-pilot. This one's awesome for here, but what does your ecosystem look like? Do you have any like really powerful workflows that have just absolutely crushed your expectations and productivity?
We have a number of things that we do, and a lot that I train a lot of my students on as well. I'll share that. The key before I do that, though, I want to say that sometimes we get excited about using AI and automations together and go, oh my goodness, I could do one thing and these 75 things could happen automatically. That's amazing if your systems are really, really tight and solid. But when we automate something that's not running like a smoothly well-oiled machine, we cause a crash really quickly because we automate a bunch of junk at that point. So my first recommendation is before you start thinking about doing a lot of automation, make sure that the individual steps and your SOPs are really rock solid, because then it can work well. Our My big thing and my cheat code, if I have one, Joel, is inside of ChatGPT, we can create something called custom GPTs. And they're basically versions of ChatGPT that are trained for specific purposes on specific data. And I have a little army of custom GPTs, some that I use every day, some that I use every week, some that my team uses regularly, where we took a look at what we do as a business, how we serve our clients, and said, all right, here are the things that we do that maybe I don't need to be directly involved in. I just need to guide places where I or my team could, if you think of it like an orchestra, we could be the conductor of the orchestra. We didn't actually have to play every instrument. And then we let AI step in to do that. One prime example, I create a lot of social media posts. I've got a large Facebook group and I probably do 10 to 15 posts a day. I have custom trained GPTs that help me create that content. They're based upon my knowledge and my experience. But now when I want to create a viral worthy post and maybe create prompts, that's one of the things that we talk about a lot is different prompts. Instead of me having to lay out the whole context of my group and lay everything out. And by the way, I don't use memory. If people are listening to the podcast going, well, Jonathan, memory would do that. Yes, but memory causes other problems when you're doing client work. So I don't have memory on. Instead of having to remind my ChatGPT every time, I now just load up a GPT that's been trained on who I am, my tone and style, my Facebook group, the type of people that are in my Facebook group, the type of content that goes viral within the group. And then I can literally just give it a topic and maybe an outcome that I'm looking for, and it will create a post for me. Because we've been doing this and continuing to refine it, that means I can create social media posts in seconds that are still very well written, that sound like me, that reflect my tone, my style, my wishes, but I don't have to sit down in front of a computer and type all that out.
Mhm.
Even better, my customer support team has one that's trained on our company and on again on me because I'm part of my brand. And so when they're trying to respond, it has all of our training programs, for example, in there. And so when people are asking questions, instead of my customer service team having to learn every program and go through everything, they literally can go to this GPT that's been trained on this knowledge base where that knowledge base gets updated, and they can ask it questions and it will like write responses. One of the favorite things they do, because they tell me about it almost every day, is you won't believe it. I literally took this email I got from a client and I pasted it in and I let it write the response for me. And I had to change 2 words and I was able to give them everything they needed. And now the client's thrilled because they got what they wanted. So it's using a lot of custom GPTs that kind of do that heavy lifting, Joel, where normally we'd have to do a lot of thinking. We're still guiding, we're still directing, but we're letting the AI do a lot of that heavy lifting in the interim.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In terms of social media content, so you've got. Do you do a lot of newsworthy items? Like, hey, there's a whatever, a ChatGPT, Sam Altman just said
Mm-hmm.
this about, whatever. So timing. How do you bake that into your content? Is that manual for you, or do you use a Perplexity to kind of like there's some sort of Perplexity
Great
workflow?
question. Yeah, a combination. So what we do, we actually take an RSS feed, which is a really ancient technology from about 3 decades ago. It just stands for real simple syndication. We create a feed of news sources. those news sources come into us, and we have an automation that pulls the titles. So it just literally looks at the title of the news stories. As you know, a lot of the titles are very similar because you've got 17 different age or sites reporting the same story that Sam Altman said, whatever. It then takes that information and runs to Perplexity, not with the article, but with the topic. And then we do research on that in Perplexity. Perplexity does research and comes back. That research then actually goes to Claude. And in Claude, we have a persona that we've created. Her name's Helena. We literally have named her. Helena is our news reporter. And she's an AI avatar that we've created. And using that Perplexity data, it now crafts a news story using Helena's style that we've trained her to be. The attitudes, the everything about it, and then follows our format. And at that point in time, it goes to our team to review, and then we literally publish those stories both online and social media, newsletters, and things like that. But yeah, we're literally taking real live news stories, titles, headlines, using Perplexity to do the search, using a Claude project trained on a specific persona. We love the way Claude writes. That's why we use it that way. And all of that's, or most of that, I shouldn't say all of that, almost all of that is helped with automations in the middle to tie those things together so that our team isn't having to go out and do all of that manually.
Are you using like N8N as part of that automation, or make.com or Zapier? Like, what do you like to use for the back end automation?
So let me first say, I'm not an automation expert. We've used all of them in the past. They all are good tools. Ours right now are written using Make when we do that, although we definitely are looking at some N8N ones. We've used Zapier as well. The main reason we moved to Make was it was one of the first to have a Perplexity integration, and we needed that Perplexity integration, so that caused us to move a lot of workflows over to Make. Now, N8N's probably more powerful, but again, that's not really my specific area of expertise, so I really rely on my team as far as which automation tools we should use. And very much, I subscribe to if it's not broke, don't fix it. So while we could redo all of those in N8N or whatever at the moment, yeah, they're running really well for us in Make.
So remind me again, in that news cycle resource, where do you come in into the process? So obviously RSS feed comes in, gets pushed to Perplexity. You do the research, the research, then Helena comes in. At what point do you or your team come in and say, "Hey, this is approved," or does it just go all automated? Like, what do you?
No, it's yeah,
Okay,
it's definitely not all automated. So our team is reviewing the headlines and we're picking the headlines that we want. And then the team is reviewing all of the posts before they go live. And we actually manually post those, or those go into one of our tools to be posted. So yeah, there's always a level of human inspiration and verification there.
100%. And that's what I fully believe in too. It's like, especially in the world of personal brands, right? You can't automate a personal brand. That's my true belief. It's
Totally agreed.
because once you break that trust from your audience, you can never get it back again. It's like, oh, this is all AI, or
Yeah,
this is just totally not true, not accurate, right? Because you let
exactly.
some sort of automated posting process go through and you didn't review it. So I think a lot of people really miss the boat on like, oh yeah, automation, automation, automation. It's like, well, yeah, research and all that stuff can be automated, but they still want your spin. They still want
Correct.
your opinion. They still want your insights. And that's what's so critical about personal branding and AI and content and automation.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I think if somebody isn't focused on that personal brand and being personable, like you said, they're going to lose that trust. When
Yeah.
I get people asking me all the time, Jonathan, do you automatically post stuff in your feed? Because I post a lot of stuff on social media. And my commitment to my audience has always been if it's posted on my account, I posted it personally. Not even my team. I personally posted that. Does that mean I spend more time than I want on social media some days? Yeah, it does. But it's maintaining that personal brand and that trust.
100%. What what's one tool or system or AI platform that you couldn't live without today? Like, it's baked so much into your process. It's baked so much into your workflow that if I came in and said, "Jonathan, sorry, this tool's going away. It's got sued, shut down,
The one that would
totally.
have the most impact would be ChatGPT because of the vast number of custom GPTs we have. Now,
Mhm.
the good news is we could reconfigure those. We've got all the data. We could reconfigure them in a Claude project or a Gemini gem in a matter of minutes, but that would definitely be what would have the biggest impact on us.
Are you using ChatGPT's image generation these days?
It's really good, but it's also really, really, really slow.
It is
So no,
slow.
we don't use it very often just because of how slow it is.
Are there ones that is there another tool that you use for image generation that's faster? Because I've run into that issue as well. I like the images that it creates. We've done it a ton with
Hmm.
ads. So like it does a really, really banger job of creating compelling ad images. Like it's basically all of our controls now for all the campaigns that we run have had some sort of AI image from ChatGPT. What do you use that is faster than ChatGPT?
By default, we use Midjourney for virtually all of our images. Flux is also great. FLUX is fantastic. Ideogram is excellent, but we've chosen and kind of centered on Midjourney, mainly because I'm a big believer in brand imaging, that the style of image begins to reflect your brand and that helps your audience connect with you. And we've got that really dialed in on Midjourney so we can get a very consistent, not necessarily character, but look and feel branded style of image. So we use Midjourney almost exclusively.
Yeah, I haven't used Midjourney in a very long time, only because it was back in the day, you could only use it through Discord.
Oh yeah, it was much more difficult.
I'm like, first of all, that blew me away because I didn't realize someone could build an entire software platform on
Hmm.
Discord. But also, like, I thought it was the most cumbersome, unuser friendly experience ever. And like, this is dumb.
You were not wrong. You were not wrong. Yeah.
So hopefully
So
they've changed that. Is it still through Discord?
they still do that, but they have an amazing website out now. In fact, most people I know have moved over to do
Good.
everything on the website. Many more tools are available on the website. It's all a great interface. They were slow to get there, but the tool they have now is really amazing.
I'll have to check it out again. Yeah, I've totally just thrown it off my radar because I'm like, I'm not going to Discord to use any sort of software. Um,
Understood.
yeah, that's hilarious. So, Jonathan, what do you have a structure, or like a set of like a four-step process for how anyone can use these tools to, if you take this process to any tool, it'll make your life easier. So we talked about
Yes.
that beforehand. Why don't we go through that quickly and give us some input as to how you use any sort of AI tool.
So basically, especially when we're talking large language models, your ChatGPTs, your Claude, your Gemini, your Grok, any of those, they are trained on natural language. And as a result, we need to communicate effectively with them or things don't work out. And I think one of the things that happens when we start using AI, we become what I call prompt hoarders, Joel. In other words, we start making this collection of all these prompts that we want to save, and we're going to use these someday. These are amazing. The reality is much like a hoarder, they get buried by other stuff and we never typically get back to them. So I try to teach people to use a prompting framework. Basically, it's how do I ask the right type of questions in order to get the right type of responses back or the best possible responses. And it's simple four steps. One, tell the AI model the type of expert it's to act as. Two, give it background information, just like Joel, if you and I were working on a project together. Three, ask it your question. And the fourth part in my mind is the key to making it all work. And that's at end your prompt, end your inquiry with the AI with ask me any questions you have.
Mm.
Because AI models are taught to fill in the blanks and make assumptions. And we all know what happens when we make assumptions. We resemble the southbound end of a northbound mule. And therefore, AI is not a lot different. And sometimes it makes some major mistakes. So by giving it permission to ask us questions, it will do that, generally one, two, or three. And then the results that we get are so much better.
I've modeled that in my own way, but the last part, which is ask me any questions for clarity, I started incorporating in any of my chats with Claude or ChatGPT, and it does make all the difference in the world because what I've found is that AI is also mostly meant to please you and also um, kind of support whatever you want to believe. And so
Yes.
if you challenge it and you say, "Hey, listen, like here's my goal, but I want you to ask clarifying questions." It helps bridge that gap to where it's not just going to give you whatever you want to hear, which is very dangerous, but it's going to help
Yes.
clarify its output and its response. So super, super powerful. So what were those four steps again? First was give it.
Tell it the type of expert.
Yep.
So you are an expert at whatever. Number two, here's the context you need. Number three, here's my question, what I want you to do based upon that. And then the last part is literally just adding the line in, ask me any questions you have, or a version of that. And I literally type in those words at the end of my prompts.
Got it. Yeah, super, super powerful. I've gotten a lot of really, really great responses when you tell it to ask you any questions that it has for clarifying. So that's a really, really good framework. All right, Jonathan, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you think is really important right now moving forward in a world of AI? Could be policies, could be upcoming tools, could be trends, could be big shifts in the internet landscape because of AI. Is there anything that's on your radar right now that we didn't talk about that you think are important to raise?
There's a lot we could go into, but let me deal with one of the most common questions I get asked, which is the best tool to use? And the answer to that, Joel, really is that all of the tools that are out there, when we talk basic tools, now I'm not talking specialty tools, there's a lot of junk specialty, but if we're talking ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and Copilot and Grok and Perplexity, they're all excellent tools. Any one of those can get you so far ahead of where you are without AI that you don't need to necessarily worry about which one is the best of the tools. And candidly, with the pace of change in AI, Joel, whatever is the best today will probably be different in a week or two because there'll be a new version out. So pick something that you have access to. If you're a Microsoft shop, use Copilot. If you're a Google shop, use Gemini. If not, use ChatGPT and love and learn how to use that tool well. And then as your needs grow, you may decide you need to do voice, which is a different tool, or you need to do better video. But don't worry about finding the perfect tool that does it all. That's not how it works. And whatever you have today, again, will allow you to leap so far ahead. Focus on using what you have available.
I'm glad you brought up Copilot and Gemini because those are two platforms. I've messed around with Gemini just a little bit. I was really turned on when they came out with, oh geez, I even forgot the name of it. It was like their portfolio. Maybe you can remember it, but like it's basically like
Notebook LM, is that what you're
yes,
thinking of?
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I was really turned on by the potential of Notebook LM or LLM, whatever it was called, but I've never touched Microsoft Copilot, or I mean, maybe it's in the Bing software. Have you messed around with Gemini or Copilot? I'd love your opinions and your feedback if you have, because I haven't, and I've been curious about it.
I use Gemini far more than I use Copilot. So I've used Copilot a little bit, but we are a Google shop, not a Microsoft shop. So while I have access to Copilot, I'm not a huge fan of the interface. I spent time prior to my digital marketing career, so now we're talking decades ago, selling IT services. And then Microsoft had a habit, and I still think they have the habit of taking something that's really good, like ChatGPT, that they now own over half of, and making it their own version, and in the process, messing it up. And they've done that many, many, many times. And I think that's Copilot is good, but it's not as good as ChatGPT, unless again, maybe you're a Microsoft shop, then it makes sense. Gemini, Google, I thought for the longest time had missed the boat on AI. In fact, till about March of this year, I recommended people avoid Google AI like the plague because candidly, it all sucked. It was terrible. But they came out with the newest versions of Gemini 2.0 and now 2.5, and they are some of the best models available on the market right now. Google's got other tools available that we haven't even had a chance to talk about, like their Veo 3 for video, Google's Notebook LM, which is still incredibly powerful. And it's a great way to go. Again, any of them will work. I'm not a personal fan of Copilot, haven't used it as much, but yeah, it's still very good. If you're a Microsoft shop and the boss says use Copilot, you can still leap ahead of your competition with Copilot.
So we can talk about that briefly because I think it's that has blown me away. VO3.
Yeah,
What what a game changer, right?
absolutely.
I don't know what that's going to do for the content creation space. I think it's going to push more of these podcasts to be more valuable, meaning because there's going to be some of the fun things that I've seen with VO3. Um, you know, I like to, um, I was researching some, Bible scriptures and some study, and
Hmm.
there were selfie style, like vlogs from I think it was
Yes.
like biblical characters where it's now
Yeah.
like I think like Noah's Ark was on there and Moses was on there and like parting parting the sea. So it was so awesome just to see. It's probably not accurate at all, but to visually see what could look
It's a
like.
whole new perspective, isn't it? Yeah, it's
Totally.
amazing.
Totally just a brand new perspective. Also, oh, they did one with Adam and Eve. That was hysterical. It's like they added humor into it too. And it was, oh my goodness. Like it is just a total game changer of, entertainment value. I've also seen a gorilla vlog that's going viral. So I think you're
Yep,
gonna get a
I've
lot of
seen that.
entertainment stuff that will be flooding the market. I don't know how much it's going to affect like personal brands. I think we're going to get a lot of fraud. You know,
Oh yeah,
deep
no
fakes,
question.
that'll be absolutely huge. So I'm looking for some, sort of like, anti-AI stamp of approval that will probably have to happen for a lot of these videos. Like, hey, this is verified by 10 people who were here live, right? To make sure this isn't AI. Like there's got to be some sort of, you know, certification process for any video that we are going to watch on the news to make sure that it's actually real. Do you hear of anything like that coming down the pipe? Like, do you think there's going to have to be some sort of like real certification so we are not duped?
I definitely think you're going to see movements in that way to try to identify whether stuff is it AI created? Is it AI enhanced? Is it 100% original? I definitely think we're going to see that, especially as it relates to news stuff, news coverage, because just even I believe it was 2 weeks ago, they had the terrible flooding down in Texas. If you're U.S. based, you probably heard about that. And there were, from what I understand, I didn't see them. I don't watch the news anymore because it doesn't add any value to my life, in my opinion. But I heard that there were literally, fake videos being done of that devastation and showing what was going on. It's one thing when it's being done for illustrative purposes. I think it's really cool. Like you, I love it when I'm studying scripture in that and I get to see things brought to life. Even if it's not perfect, it gives me a new perspective. It's
Yeah.
like watching Chosen. I mean, I love Chosen on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not going to say everything there is perfect, but it's still an incredible visualization of what may have happened, and it has allowed me to get deeper into that content. And I think we're going to see the same thing with VO3. The fact that I could go in and I could literally have world leaders, throwing punches at each other, and make it look real in those tools. The difference is we've been able to do that at a large extent for a very long period of time if you had the skills to do it. The difference now is it opens up to people like you and I, Joel, that we could have an idea and we could do something like that, as opposed to needing a professional video editing team or, custom equipment and stuff like that. Now it's been opened up for most anybody.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think it'll all work out in the wash. And yeah, I do think there'll be some type of stamp of originality or something like that, that it is accurate footage, not AI based footage.
Yeah, I think we need that and we're going to need it sooner rather than later, like immediately,
Yeah.
because you're going to
Wait,
start.
wait for the next round of elections, and that will probably cause
That's
it
where
to
I,
happen. So,
that's where I was going. It's like, the next series of elections, the next campaigns, you're going to see all of these potential, you name it. Like you'll see,
oh yeah,
it's like, oh, look what this, candidate just got caught doing. And it's like, no, he wasn't even there or she wasn't even there. Like that's not them at all. And they're just smear campaigns will just go rampant. And anyway, well, Jonathan, this was
on
fantastic.
that, if I can give 10 seconds, it's why
Yes.
it's so important to build a personal brand. If you're a business leader, whether you're an owner or not, build your personal brand, because if that happens, if your audience can look at your brand and go, that's not consistent with your brand, with who you are, it'll be much easier to convince people that was a fake. If you don't have a personal brand, there's nothing to stand on.
Right. I 100% agree. 100% agree. So, Jonathan, where can people find you? Where can we follow you? Where can I send my listeners? Let's drop some links so we can share some love.
Yeah, this is super easy. If you can remember my name, it's Jonathan Mast, MAST.com. You can just head out there. You can find out lots about me, ways to connect and everything else. Or if you can't remember and you're watching and you see I've got this big long beard, just search for White Beard AI on Google and you'll get a number of links off to my website and can connect. I've got tons of free resources, some paid ones too, but would love to connect with everybody.
Awesome. We will include that in the show notes. So it's jonathanmast.com. And then we'll also include the links to everything else you just mentioned as well. Jonathan, this was a blast. I really enjoyed having you on and appreciate your time. Appreciate your white beard wisdom.
Thanks, Joel. Been a pleasure.